To be honest, I thought that the first video would be more than enough to express how I felt about this product. Honestly, I thought, given the amount invested in this, really Sony, PlayStation, or whoever the hell it is, would make, even if it was the minimum, attempt to revive or do something with this brand. It's not every day that news comes out about Sony investing over $100 million in a product. That couldn't stay alive for even 2 weeks. But as I said, I thought they would attempt something. But with the things that have happened in the last few hours, we can be completely sure that, indeed, this is already, without a doubt, the biggest failure in the history of video games. Finally, Atari's extraterrestrial can rest in peace, can look at a grateful world. A world that will no longer remember it as the worst, but will remember it in a tender and kind way. Like that old game that was so bad that they didn't know what to do with the sales they didn't achieve, so they buried it in a desert. Something that will be remembered more as a failure due to incompetence. A failure because it was still a relatively new sector, and due to the technical limitations of the time as well. What happened with Concord is on another level, though it's partly similar. Rest in peace, my little green alien. I'll never know why they made you green, because extraterrestrial was brown. But it doesn't matter, Daddy, you rest. You may be wondering why I'm bringing this topic back into the spotlight. If I had already covered it quite a bit in its respective video a couple of months ago, well, let's say I'll give you a brief summary to put you in context. One day, Sony was in the mood for Mambo, in the mood to make a little splurge, and they launched a trailer for a new video game. At that moment, we didn't know it, but that trailer was going to be the start of a supposed PlayStation plan to deliver several games as a service. Although, if you ask me, in my own reaction that I made to this thing, I already smelled that it was a damn one. Piece of shit, but well, it's not like I'm someone special for smelling it or thinking that this would be a piece of shit. The vast majority of us already realized that this game was coming bad and late. As I say, it's not like I'm special for it, but I did realize that this was not going to end well. So, if we assume that this video game was going to be the pillar of this so-called new era for PlayStation, do you guys believe that? Did Sony release an epic trailer that was delivered to us players? A concise idea of what this crucial company launch would include was expected, but it wasn't provided. It seems that the company's guidelines were to make it clear that the marketing department is a bunch of incompetence. In the first trailer in Concord's history, and I'm not talking about the State of Play trailer, which I reacted to live, but about the first teaser that was shown in history, announcing its existence for the first time in May 23, the teaser trailer that would be the fundamental pillar for an era of games as a service for Sony. It was a damn cinematic of a ship with things moving and the game's title. I understand this type of announcement is sometimes used to create hype and unrealistic expectations, but someone inside the company forgot the tiny little detail that it only works if the product you're announcing is something people know and therefore can imagine something. Because if you're going to make a trailer that says absolutely nothing, shows nothing, and the only thing you give to the players is the name of the intellectual property, which, let's remember, was completely new, what should you suppose should happen? How do you get hyped with just a name? As if I just throw out a name here, I don't know. Naivation, what does that mean to you? What hype can that create for you? No matter how much you say no, but Naivation has a lot of budget behind it. Yeah, but what is it? What is it? Is it a multiplayer online battle arena? Is it a shooter? What the hell is it? They expected people to get up from their chairs and say, I don't know, I have no idea what it is, but I'm a Sonier. So anything PlayStation throws at me, I'll swallow. As if it were a dick. The situation deteriorated further when a trailer from the State of Play was released. My live reaction mirrored the internet's collective response. It appears generic and resembles Guardians of the Galaxy, but lacks charisma and seems dull. Concord was met with widespread skepticism and predictions of failure, which ultimately proved to be accurate assessments of the project's outcome. The game's beta launch on Steam was a huge success with an impressive peak of around 2,000 concurrent players, which raises a pretty big question. If that paltry amount of people played the game for free in the beta, how many were actually going to play it? When it officially came out? For a fee? For $40? Because yes, this game, which was a hero shooter, like so many others on the market, was not free. I guess someone at Sony's offices was told that to break into a market as saturated as that, you had to have a differentiator. And one of the investors with crap in his brain and a dirty ass thought that differentiator should be that it was going to be the only hero shooter on the market that was going to cost money. That had, I don't know, non-binary people. And, well, the full game came out at a ridiculous price. Nobody bought it. And when we say nobody, it's not figuratively. Practically nobody deigned to buy it, and the inevitable happened. The closure of the servers was announced, which caused two quite interesting things. Many determined players were grinding intensely to earn the Platinum Trophy before the game servers shut down permanently. Honestly, it was funny that the matches to get the Platinum were summarized. I waited 20 minutes to get into a match because only about 50 players were playing. And when they finally found a match, absolutely everyone started jumping into the abyss to farm. But the second thing that announcement caused was the absolute mockery of the internet. However, several things were revealed later, such as the budget of the game. It went from 100 million into 200 million, then to 500 million, increasing substantially. As the video says, most of the information available at that time was vague and questionable, which is understandable. Why the hell would a game with such a poor amount of characters and maps cost the same as the damn God of War from 2018? Was it enough to make you want to tear your hair out? It was later confirmed that the amount was 200 million, which makes me wonder about its whereabouts. Speaking more seriously, this game demonstrates the power consumers have in determining a product's success or failure. In reality, consumers are the ones who decide everything. But above all, it perfectly demonstrates that sometimes multi-million-dollar companies have shit for brains. As I said in the last video, who was foolish enough to think entering the saturated hero shooter market was feasible? Additionally, intentionally implement a paywall comparable to that of a AAA game, or nearly so. Yes, they say they've been developing this game for 8 years, but where is the evidence of that time and the 200 million spent? Doesn't anyone understand? There's another reason why I'm making this video. We all practically thought that Sony had put Concord on ice for a bit to restructure it a little and relaunch it in the future, like a free-to-play game. With the $200 million investment excluding marketing, it's assumed they'd try to make this profitable by any means necessary. In addition, the Amazon series of Secret Level is coming, where supposedly there is an episode dedicated exclusively to Concord. In other words, this game was going to be a real pillar for Sony. Some even called it the Star Wars of PlayStation, which makes me laugh. Concord has forever left our lives, because the studio that brought this game to life was completely wiped out. The Gas Guys did it. And all that, size up for a second what all this has meant. A studio that since 2018 was working solely on a video game. There are debates on whether they have been going on for 68 years, as Concord is a very murky matter. The budget, development time, developer selection, and current state are all unknown. Everything seems like a mystery. In X-Files' case, there are very strange things, just as they are. Imagine a studio focusing on one game for over 6 years. Sony's trust in them was so great that they acquired and financed the project. How could an experienced studio end up in such a predicament? It's unfathomable. With so much money to hire analysts, to hire who knows what kind of people to analyze the market, or any crap. How is it possible that fucking Sony made such a cosmic mistake? Because there was absolutely nothing that this game had, that other games didn't have, much better and mostly free. Could anyone give me even a single reason for having chosen Concord over all the other options? Even Valve's hero shooter Deadlock is doing well, despite entering a saturated market. Despite being a multiplayer online battle arena shooter, people are praising this game, unlike Concord. On top of that, it was also discovered that within the company there was something called toxic positivity. What does this mean? Well, instead of acting like they were working on a 200 million game, they worked as if they were a tiny indie studio, as if they were high schoolers making a video game as a hobby after class. They tried to maintain such high positivity that any criticism towards the game was labeled as toxicity. Imagine doing a team project where no one can criticize the work negatively, as it would ruin the project's mood. And this, friends, sorry for going into satanic boomer mode, but the truth is, these are the strange things that the modern world has today. We've reached a point where in a company you can't even question what someone does, because you might hurt their feelings. I don't want to get political or sound bitter, because that's not my flow. But go to hell, this is totally absurd. It's literally levels of absurdity that, as I always say, if these things were told in a fiction series, we would roll our eyes and look up thinking, like, yeah, right, what nonsense, who could believe this? These events, which might have been dismissed as unrealistic a few years ago, are now actually happening in the present day. It's outrageous. It's like if, I don't know, suddenly my editor...
Don't involve me in this.
He sends me a video full of movie clips with copyright and, by the way, a mess in the middle of the screen. Because yes, but me? As I want to maintain a state of extreme positivity. I didn't say anything, calm, the video is nice, thank you very much, I will upload it like this, of course. How could you treat your editor that way? Rather than expressing harsh thoughts, like in the Chokus meme, it's best to stay calm. It doesn't make sense to react that way. We're on good terms, right, little snail? Sure, I'll get full of strikes and maybe I'll lose the channel, but at least I maintain a positive work environment. Get out the fucking shit. Now, another aspect I didn't cover much in the last video was character design. Mostly because when the game came out, there was much more talk about the walk theme they represented, instead of how fucking horrendous they were. I mean, what is this? Do they really expect people to cosplay a fucking trash can? With legs? Usually games of this style. The character's own design can tell you several things about them, whether it's where they come from, a bit of their past, or simply the role they play within the game. However, the characters from Concord are entirely devoid of depth, being the most hollow, unsightly, and simplistic entities imaginable. I think the only design that is somewhat saved is this yellow champion. And it's only because it's the only one that tried to be different. But, Vilci, what are you with? A realistic game. The characters of a game are made to be realistic. That they are overloaded with armors or objects? It is not realistic. Let's see. Obviously, in video games, there are characters who wear clothes that are anything but practical when it comes to fighting. But the point is that those characters were intentionally designed to stand out. Overwatch may have such characters. There are characters with outrageous outfits that would make us extremely uncomfortable to simply walk in if worn in real life. But that's the thing. The idea is for the character to be eye-catching, to be able to tell a story just by looking at it. If we go by the logic of making characters with realistic outfits, we would have a game with bland and boring characters. I mean, Concord, a bland, empty game, devoid of soul that brings nothing new to the genre. The overpriced game, with a AAA price tag, arrived too late and was overly self-important. Moreover, it wasn't even allowed a second chance to revive and fight for a place in the genre. A stupid game that felt like crap to play. The movement speed, a crucial aspect of this game genre, was very low, resulting in poor mobility. A horrible game where all opponents, including you, were bullet sponges, causing the matches to be eternal and boring. A terrible game that turned out to be so terrible that even if it had come out before Overwatch, it would have been swept away. A disastrous game that was handled so horribly that it caused many people to waste almost a decade of their life on a single project. And let's not even talk about the people who worked here, people with no work experience, who I don't know exactly why they were hired. There are theories and rumors, but I won't get into that. But in Concord, the vast majority of people who worked there hadn't even worked in video games. Really? So to wrap up this video, I want to read and analyze the farewell made by Firewalk Studios on their Twitter account. Because if we already criticize every aspect of the game, I think we can also criticize the farewell they've had a bit. And I quote, Firewalk says goodbye for the last time. Firewalk was born with the idea of bringing the joy of multiplayer mode to a wider audience. Let's see, that of bringing the joy of multiplayer mode. I don't know about me, but at least in my case, I've been playing online games for, 15 years, 18. I guess they wanted the game to be played by people who have never touched a shooter instead of, people who have been playing it for a long time. But perhaps they failed to recognize that the game was utter garbage. Along the way, we gathered an amazing team that was able to manage the growth of a new startup, turning it into a team during a global pandemic. Fireworks was founded in 2018 and remained small in its early years, only going into full production in 2022. Okay, I'm not quite sure what they mean here. Some participants in the project claimed Concord Production Company started in 1916, while others said it began in 1918. This message suggests that despite their best efforts over 2 years, they couldn't accomplish everything they set out to do. Please believe we are not working with Sony. As I say, I guess they want to lighten the failure a bit. Because obviously, it's better to say that a game you worked on for 2 years failed, than to say that a game you worked on for 8 years failed. Building a new custom next-generation frames per second in Unreal 4 and moving to Unreal 5. It delivers a premium gaming experience with stunning visuals and 60 frames per second technical performance. High-performance frames on a stable and scalable control panel on PlayStation 5 and PC for hundreds of thousands of players in our beta version. Okay, first I give that to the game that at least I didn't suffer any kind of bug or frames per second drop when it was tested. And even though that shit should be the norm, well, we are in a world where it's practically a miracle that a game comes out without problems. Although it seems wrong to me that we have that, congratulate a video game because it's not broken. Anyway, besides, what do you mean hundreds of thousands of players in our beta version? Steam's user numbers for both the beta and final version are incredibly high. Are you seriously claiming that those hundreds of thousands came from PlayStation? And are those hundreds of thousands of people here with us right now in this room? They said this because Sony hides their numbers and we will never know the truth. And they just throw this out there so they don't look so pathetic, which has the opposite effect. Managing an acquisition and integration while preparing technical and preliminary tests, and ultimately deliver an excellent frames per second experience to the players, even if it was much more narrowly successful than expected in a very consolidated horror market. Oh my god, my mother. I think this paragraph is the most hallucinated, huh? The bitch that bore me, my mother. I'm not even going to talk about the paragraph, because they make themselves look bad. I mean, the paragraph makes itself look bad. It reminds me of the typical politician speech, when they do everything wrong and they try to disguise it all with expressions. Narrow success. I mean, now to a resounding atomic and nuclear failure, we call it a narrow success. Go to hell. We took some risks along the way, combining aspects of card and fighting games with first-person shooter games. While some of these and other aspects of the intellectual property didn't work as hoped, the idea of putting new things into the world is fundamental to driving the medium forward. The game was disappointing despite the exceptional talent and effort from the Firewalk team. And the teams at Sony Interactive Entertainment and throughout the industry will be lucky to work with them. Contact the PlayStation Hiring Department for inquiries. Thank the teams, partners, and fans who supported us along the way. See you in the storm. Firewall studio closing. End of transmission. And with it has also gone any kind of probability that Concord will return with a free-to-play and die again within a week. Even if they had managed to bring it back, it would have been for nothing. The game has gained disastrous publicity over these months, and nobody wants to play it. If anyone was to play it, would it be for a meme? I hope all the competent people who worked on this game can find employment. And those who had that empty resume and were only hired for, I don't know, social, political, agenda reasons. No, I don't know, because I also don't want to get into that. It just seems suspicious to me and a lot of people that they would hire people for such a big game who had no kind of work experience, and that Sony was okay with it. But, well, I'm not going to go there. The point is that I hope those people, well, I don't know, choose another profession more in line with them, or improve their skills and their way of working a little bit before coming back here. Encouragement to the workers who wasted their time here. That Sony has lost so much money on such a stupid idea. Honestly, do they deserve it? Sony has been doing things very badly for about 5 or 6 years. They have been in quite a sharp decline. This doesn't involve comparing or fighting. Xbox is also doing badly. Not Nintendo. Nintendo is sweeping everyone. But, well, they are fine. But we should not hide the sun with a finger, nor get into stupid console wars without parents. Despite this, it's clear that Sony is in decline and not doing things right. It must be addressed. Just as their successes were acknowledged, their shortcomings are being addressed now. It's time for me to step back and agree. Let's go.